All right, today I don't want to start with definitions, formulas, or theory terms. I want to tell you a story. Not a history lecture, not Wikipedia, just a story I tell every one of my piano students when they ask me the same question. Why does G major have an F sharp? Why does D major have an F sharp and a C sharp? Where do all these sharps and flats even come from? Most piano students are told one thing: practice the scale, it will make you better, which is true, but it still doesn't answer the real question. Are these sharps and flats just there to torture you, or do they actually come from something simple? Because the truth is, they're not random. And once you see where they come from, key signatures stop feeling like magic. So, imagine this. Once upon a time, there's a guy. Let's just call him the piano man. He's unbelievably good at making pianos. Not factory pianos, not mass-produced instruments, obsessive craftsmanship. He experiments with materials no one else would touch. Strings spun from gold, keys cut so precisely they feel warm under your fingers. A piano that almost feels alive. But there's a problem. At that time, people didn't really know how to make good music on a piano. They walk past the shop, look at the piano, and say, yeah, it looks nice, but what do I actually do with it? The piano man is frustrated because he realizes something very important. If I don't know how to make good music myself, nobody's going to buy my piano. So he sits down at the piano and he starts pressing random keys like this. And yeah, that doesn't sound great. Then he stops and he thinks, wait a second. What if instead of pressing random keys, I try something organized? He asks himself something very simple. All right, instead of dealing with everything at once, all these keys, what if I simplify? What if for now, I leave the black keys alone and just see what happens with the white keys? I'll still go step by step, no skipping, just one white key at a time. And I need a place to start. All right, let's start here. He begins to move upward, step by step, one white key at a time, so like this. And at that moment, something unexpected happens. It doesn't sound random. It sounds finished, like a sentence with a full stop. And he realizes, oh, this works. So he gives this idea a name, playing from one note, moving step by step, and ending on the same note one octave higher. He calls this idea a scale. And this particular one, C to C, people really loved it. It sounded so natural that even today, kids can sing it before they ever take a music lesson. Like, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, si, do. Because this scale just fits how our ears work. Back then, this scale had a fancy name, Ionian. And yes, if you play League of Legends, that name might already sound familiar. But people liked this scale so much that they thought, you know what? This one feels kind of important. So instead of calling it Ionian, they started calling it the major scale. Not because it's better than the others, but because it became so common, it became so major, it was everywhere, it was familiar. It was the one people used to make sense of everything else. So now that the piano man had a scale he really loved, he got curious. He asked himself, why does this sound so good? What's actually happening between these notes? And instead of pulling out rulers or tape measures or any other fancy measuring tools, he used two simple ideas: tone and semitone. On a piano, a semitone is the smallest step. If two notes are right next to each other with nothing in between, that's a semitone. So like these two. Nothing in between. Or these two. There's nothing in between. Or these two. No key in between. And so on. A tone is essentially two semitones. On the piano, that means there's exactly one key in between. Like these two. That's a tone. There's one key in between. These two. One key in between. Or these two. One key in between. Now let's go back to the scale everyone loved, the one we just played, starting on C using only the white keys. Let's look at the gaps between each note, and let's describe those gaps using the two ideas we just talked about, tones and semitone. So we started from here. We went to this one. Now that's a tone, because there's one key in between them. Now go from here to here. There's one key in between, so that's a tone. We went from here to here. That's a semitone, because there's no key in between. Here to here. One key in between, so that's a tone. These two, one key in between, tone. These two, one key in between, tone. Last one. No key in between, so that's a semitone. So the pattern we just discovered is tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone. This was a huge moment for the piano man. He realizes if this pattern is what makes the major scale sound like this, then I don't need to memorize every scale. I can start on any note, and as long as I follow this pattern, I'll get a major scale. Let's try starting on a different note this time. Let's start on G. Now follow the pattern we just found. Tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone. So if you want one tone higher from G, you need to go here, because that will make a one key in between. Now if you want one tone up from here, you need to go to this one, because that will make a one key in between. Now if you want one semitone higher from this one, I'm going to go here, because there's no key in between. Now from here, one tone higher, that's going to be this one. One key in between. From here to here, if you want one tone higher, come to this one. One key in between. Now, one more tone up from here. Remember, a tone means there's one key in between. So you actually don't go to this one. You need to come here, because that will make a one key in between. And that's not F, that's F sharp. And F sharp one semitone higher, go to this one. That will make it a semitone. And that's why G major has an F sharp. There you have it. The only reason G major has an F sharp, not because a theory book hates you, not because AMEB or ABRSM wants to mess with your brain, but because you're protecting the pattern that made the scale sound good in the first place. And here's the best part. If you understand this, you cannot figure out every major scale by yourself. No guessing, no blind memorization, just logic and sound. So guys, scales aren't punishments. They're not finger gymnastics. They're a record of people listening carefully and asking, why does this work? So next time, let's say you see 5 sharps in B major, don't imagine AMEB sitting somewhere thinking, these students look way too happy. Let's drop 5 random sharps out of nowhere and make them suffer. Because now that you understand the story of the piano man, scales stop being scary and music starts making sense. Thanks for listening. Peace.